Radio Wammo Breakfast at 16 minutes past 7.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Jeff Dudas from underwatertimes.com.
Yes, he's the editor at underwatertimes.com, and he joins us to talk about some fascinating stories from the oceans around the world. Hello to you, Jeff.
How you doing, Wammo?
Very good. First story today about some animals that have been found that live without oxygen.
Yeah, this is a world first. Actually, probably a pretty big deal. These Italian researchers were studying this area off of Crete in a deep ocean basin. It's about 3.5 kilometers deep, and it's this anoxic area, they call it. It's absence of oxygen, so it's water with basically no oxygen in it, and it's super salty water sort of settled in the bottom of this basin. And the thought was that no living animal could survive down there or breed down there. In the past, they found bacteria that could live in this sort of environment, but never a living animal. So they've been studying down there for like 10 years. And they finally brought up these little millimeter-sized animals. They look like jellyfish. They have a little protective shell. They're called loriciferans, I believe is the name. And sure enough, they figured out that these animals actually live and breed and spend their whole life down there.
Huh. Wow. Does this have implications for life perhaps to be found elsewhere in the universe?
Well, that's sort of they sort of scratched their heads. So maybe in some of these places where they thought no, there's no way, nothing can live down there. Well, there's actually life down there. So some of these environments that are seemingly harsh. Perhaps not so harsh for life.
Can they explain how it lives?
They don't know. That's the thing. They just discovered it. They haven't really figured out. Well, where does it get its energy? Because that's how does it survive and such. They found over the years they found other animals down there, but they figured out they're not breeding down there. They're not reproducing down there. They come from the upper reaches of the ocean and they drift down or fall down on something. But they found these animals. And they found a couple with eggs on them. I'm not quite sure. These are millimeter, so they're like tiny, tiny, tiny. And somehow, they figured out, well, they found some with eggs, so they captured them. They brought them aboard, kept them in this oxygen-free environment, and they saw them hatch, and they survived after the hatch. So sure enough, they said, these animals, they're living their whole life down there.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Perhaps we should leave them to it.
Well, go down there and study them. Hopefully, not contaminating the area or anything.
Yeah.
But so they're going to keep going down there and see if they can find other animals and figure out basically how these animals live.
Okay, Jeff. Now, a follow-up to a story that I think we had a few months ago about a TV reporter that was accused of cruelty to an animal. Yeah,
this is out of Copenhagen in Denmark. A TV reporter, and this is one of these public affairs reporters. Was trying to show that wastewater and sort of household chemicals could kill fish. So what she did, she took some diluted anti-dandruff shampoo, poured it into a tank with guppies, and sure enough, the guppies died. 3 days later, I think 11 out of 12 guppies died in this tank of water. So a vet saw this and filed criminal charges, cruelty charges. And as this went through, she was actually convicted of cruelty to animals, but because so much time had passed, I think this was back in 2004, the original, I think when she filmed this, there were no penalty, which I'm still wondering how you can be convicted, found guilty, but sort of statute of limitations had passed. But
right.
That's Denmark. So they appealed it, and sure enough, the appeals court said no, overturned the verdict, and this reporter, of course, is very happy. It's freedom of journalistic work and such. And she said she's definitely not the executioner of these fish.
Interesting. Well, finally, urine, crayfish, females, aphrodisiac. What are we talking about here, Jeff?
I'll sort of hold commentary on this one. Let's let it go. Scientists in Great Britain and Hull have been studying crayfish and how they reproduce, and they figured out urine is the key. That it does two things. It spikes aggression, but also serves as an aphrodisiac. So it makes them want to make love. So you get sort of this strange combination of wanting to fight and wanting to make love.
Oh, I can relate, yeah.
So, evidently, then they figured out, and this is, they had some pictures, actually, you can find them on Underwater Times, of they had a special camera where you can see this going on, where this sort of cloud of urine is going on, and they figured out several things. One, that the females initiate courtship by this releasing the urine, and two, the males will only start, going on if they receive this, this urine signal from the females. And three, that this releasing all this urine in the water is, again, the aphrodisiac. But they both start fighting, and they sort of think that the female does this and triggers this so she can see how strong the male is.
Huh.
They sort of punch out and hit each other with their claws. But and perhaps this goes to only the fittest male. If it's a super strong male, that only the fittest one she'll mate with.
Isn't it fascinating, is it? Whether it's in the ocean or on the land, whether it's a big animal, small animal, or a bird, the behaviours are generally the same, aren't they?
They're definitely strange, and I'm thinking about this. Here you have some researchers. I'm sure this is important work, but someone's out there studying the reproductive habits of crayfish, and sure enough, it comes back to urine.
Yeah.
Or strange enough, I should say. And there's people out there studying this stuff, but it's fairly interesting. And, again, can you draw parallels to say humans or other animals? Maybe so.
Yeah. Well, the whole competitive element, isn't it? Like where the males fight it out for the female. It's all pretty much universal.
So it seems to, and I say it too, it seems it makes them, when the female releases this urine, it makes them both aggressive. So that they both get kind of grumpy, and I guess one decides stops releasing the urine, and that sort of, then they sort of go off and do what crayfish do.
Well, I can sympathise. I mean, you would be a bit grumpy, wouldn't you?
Well, it works out for them,
Hey, thanks very much, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
Those stories and a whole lot more you'll find in on the website, which is underwatertimes.com. And of course, we talk to Jeff every 2 weeks here on the show. Get a track now.